Hello and welcome to Bisnomics, your weekend's most profitable 60 minutes. I'm Tharandu Amarasekara. The role of women in the workplace. Much has been said and discussed on this very pertinent and vital issue. Of course, the month of March is dedicated towards the celebration of the International Women's Day, 8th of March. But this aspect, this concern, is not something that should be limited to just one day, 1 month, or even 1 year. Instead, ideally, giving more opportunities to women to grow in their corporate careers, giving opportunities with better access to education, this should be a way of life in the Sri Lankan economy and Sri Lankan corporate workplaces. Only then will we be able to see a sign of Sri Lanka progressing towards being a successful economy. What exactly can be done further towards this worthy cause? There are already some bodies, such as the Women's Chamber of Industry and Commerce, that are doing a lot for this major economically and nationally important endeavor. What exactly is their mandate? And to talk about this, we have a very special guest joining us today, who is none other than Tusitha Kumarakulasingam, the board member of the WCIC currently and a marketing consultant. Tusitha, welcome to Bisnomics. Absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Tharindu. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tusitha, when we talk about marketing, that is your domain, and I believe you are extremely passionate about it. From your vibrant and energetic smile itself, I can say that. How and what can we do exactly in marketing? It is known as a place with fun but tough work conditions. But as a female leader, how has your journey in marketing been? What are the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them? Let's start with that.
Okay. It's quite interesting that you say or define marketing as fun. It's very true. I'm a strong believer in the philosophy that you have to love what you do. And if you do love what you do, you will never do a day of work. You will be having fun, right? So you need to choose a career that is compatible with your thinking, your liking, and what your ambitions are.
What keeps you ticking?
Definitely what keeps you ticking. Yes, marketing is fun, but you need to have yourself properly grounded if you are going to enjoy that field. So marketing is a function where it's either a corporate or a corporate with a product or a service tries to deliver that to the consumer. So the function of marketing is to understand the consumer need state. Currently maybe a need, or it could be an unmet need or evolving need, an emerging need. So you need to have the skill set to identify that and match what you deliver to that expectation. So if you can leverage this, then you've got a good thing going. That's basically, like in a sense, in a nutshell, what marketing is. But then of course it is also the pivotal point in a company, because everything that the company does has to revolve around finally your consumer. So marketing plays a huge role. It is truly fun, but it's a lot of commitment and it's a lot of responsibility. And that needs to be always remembered, and marketers need to deliver on that because you're responsible for the business.
And as a marketer, starting from the early days of your career, what were the challenges that you faced? Because I believe that in your initial days, marketing would have been seen more as a male domain or a male dominant industry. Advertising was heavily male dominant back in the day. How did you what are the challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
Okay, so if I talk a little bit about my journey through the years, I started off at Unilever. I worked with Best Foods, an American company which had businesses here, and then G-Tech, which was a company which ran a lottery, Mahapala Lottery, on behalf of the Mahapala Scholarship Fund. So gone through a lot, but fundamentally the principles remain the same, irrespective of which product it is. It is connecting the consumer with your product. Correct. So you need to align that, and that's what it is. And what you need is discipline. You really have to understand what you do. You have to learn what you do. You have to understand your consumer extremely well. Of course, the rest of the fields like research helps you a lot. Then, as you said, media is an area now, especially today, in today's world, media is highly fragmented. The digitalization has brought in a whole new dimension to this in the last 20 years or so. So you need to, I guess today's marketers have a wider study area that they need to cover. But I mean, anyone in marketing has to have this basic foundations in place, and that's what it is. And I guess you asked about challenges. The basic challenge
Especially
for
gender-based stereotyping related challenges.
okay, I don't actually, I'm for one is not a person who considered that gender was an issue.
Okay.
So I always felt that whatever anybody could do, I could do if I set myself.
If you start believing like that, then naturally you overcome any challenge,
I
isn't it?
think that is what it is. It's all with you. It is all in you. So that the way you look at things. And fortunately, I mean, all my colleagues in the past duration of my career, I don't think it was ever a problem that I was a woman, because there were times that and in C-suites I was the only woman who was there, but it never became a problem, and they considered me as an equal who was an expert in my field.
And coming back to what you were saying, when you work with diligence, with discipline, you naturally get the respect and the due recognition.
Of course, of course. So then,
E plus D equals D.
then talking a little bit more about like my journey, since you asked about it, but a decade before, I decided that I was going to go on my own, and I started my consulting. So now today I help small organizations, entrepreneurs, develop their businesses, acquire the skills that we naturally have at multinational and corporates, which small businesses don't have, and help them to transform their business to a better place. Not just the company, but also the people. And that transformation actually is very, very satisfying, and it is helpful for the businesses that I have seen. And for a woman, your other question was woman in, I guess what you need to do is, because we play multiple roles. From one side it is a career woman, but then at home there are so many other expectations from you. You need to learn to strike a balance. It is possible to do all the roles and all the roles well as well. So I guess it's that achievement of how you manage all these things. So it's a lot of self-discipline.
Fantastic opening thoughts there from you, Tusitha.
Thank you.
When you look at the role of women in marketing, now today we see women working hand in hand as equals with men in the organizations when it comes to planning marketing campaigns, marketing activities, and so on. Tusitha, from your experience, what is that different flair, that difference that women bring into marketing when it comes to it can be planning campaigns, marketing ideas? What is it that they bring as a difference to the table?
Primarily, it is actually a woman can do many things at the same time, which I think is a skill that you acquire by just being a woman. So you need to put that into practice. I believe that anyone should figure out the reason why you're here. I mean, we are on earth for a reason. So you need to find out your purpose, the reason, and work towards making that reason a reality. Deliver on that. Make a contribution to society, make a contribution to whatever you do. In that process, of course, you need to acquire skills. Now, if it's a marketer, there are fundamental marketing skills that you will need to acquire. But at the same time, there are lots of soft skills that you need to have, because a marketer has to be a people's person. You need to be able to work with anyone. Everybody is not going to like you, but you still might have to work with them. So you need to be able to develop that talent of working with anyone, putting your personal beliefs, agendas aside, but work with people for what they are and what they bring to that particular need, and get the best out of it.
Understood. In terms of the key skills that women need to possess today to succeed in the workplace, not necessarily in marketing, but you're someone, you've been in multiple boards, you're involved with so many different boards even today, you are a consultant with so many organizations from so many different domains. Tusitha, to be successful in the modern workplace, what are the key skills and attitudes that the modern professional women need to portray?
Attitude is a can-do attitude. nothing less is going to be good enough. Two basic values that I always believe in: honesty and integrity. Because if you don't have that, it's going to bite you in your back sometime. You to be honest, you have to say what you do and do what you say. If you can live, develop a set of true values for yourself, because each individual will have different priorities, but you need to live by your values. You cannot compromise on that for short-term gains. You cannot take shortcuts in life just to get ahead, because it's going to catch on you at some point of time, and that point it is very difficult to do course correction.
In terms of skill, so attitude I understand.
Skills, primarily a marketer has to develop the marketing skills that has to be there. Now today's world, your digital skills are even more important, irrespective of which profession you are in. You have to be absolutely savvy, digital savvy now. Like people like me at my age is also learning all this, because it is a requirement. It's not just it's not an option anymore. If you don't know that, then you just can't get on.
Correct. Now people always make the excuse that there is no time to learn and etc. What is your answer to that, and how do you make time to? So let's go with an example of you.
I actually, the kind of things that I do is many. I work on so many things at the same time. I mean, currently my consulting assignments also work with so many companies. I spend a lot of time on the Women's Chamber, so I don't believe this not having time. If you can plan your day, planning is the most important.
We all have the same 24 hours.
We all have the same 24 hours, and also I am a strong believer that you need to have you time. You have to have that. You need to have like time for your family, you need to have time to develop yourself, and you need to have time for rest as well. But still, within a day you can get a lot done, provided you structure yourself properly. That's the only skill that you need to develop. Time planning is a myth. You can't plan time, but you can organize yourself. So that will allow you to manage your day much better.
Excellent thoughts there indeed. What exactly is the role of the Women's Chamber of Industry and Commerce and its contribution towards empowering women of Sri Lanka? Let's talk about that on the other side of this break. This is Bisnomics. Welcome to Bisnomics, your weekend's most profitable 60 minutes. I'm Tharandu Amarasekara. We are in conversation with Tusitha Kumarakulasingam on the very important aspect of providing more opportunities for women to succeed in the economic sphere of Sri Lanka. Tusitha, when you look at the Women's Chamber of Industry and Commerce, it's an active body. We see so many initiatives and all that. But I think the more people being aware of it will enable more women to come forward, interact with you all, to be a part of the action, and through that grow their businesses, grow their own individual economies as well, which end of the day in the big picture contributes to a strong economy in Sri Lanka. What exactly is the Women's Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and what is their mandate?
Okay, starting from, this is supposed to be the 35th year of the Women's Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and apparently we have been the first women's body in the world to have formed a not-for-profit organization. The mandate...
Fantastic legacy to be a part of.
It is. And I am personally honored, because 2 years ago when I got involved, I helped them to create a strategic plan for the business and to create a proper direction for the business, for the chamber. Yes. And we are now working on it, and that's probably how you see us, like very visible, very active.
Correct.
Because we have a very clear vision and a mission, and goals and strategies in place. So the basic vision of the organization is to be the think tank, voice, and the platform for entrepreneurs and professionals, encouraging them to deliver on whatever they are doing, and also to enhance their contribution to this economy. So at the end of the day, we feel that women can play a big role, and currently it is not good enough. So the idea is to get them to scale up, start contributing, so that Sri Lanka as a whole can benefit. And our mission is basically doing like a lot of capacity building programs, policy advocacy programs, allowing members to network with other organizations, with similar minded people, other businesses that have done well, so that they can learn from them. I mean, we run workshops, we run events, we run activities to showcase all these.
Understood.
And we feature a lot of these successful women so that the others can learn from them.
Empowered women, empower women.
Yes, it is actually, we say, that's our tagline as well.
Oh, fantastic. In terms of the contribution of women to the workforce in Sri Lanka, what are the challenges that you see which are keeping women away from the workforce, from the economic activities of Sri Lanka, and especially that are keeping them away from starting their own enterprises?
Okay, so currently it's at a very dismal rate, you know, that 36% only. Now, we are trying to drive this to like a better figure. I mean, if it is about 50, 60, I mean, we are 52% of the population. So there is really no justice for women not to play a bigger role.
Absolutely.
I think the majority of the problems actually start when women kind of start settling down, marriage and family. But unfortunately, if you look at the education system currently, more females are graduating.
More than 60%.
More than 60% are in university.
Some of the best and brilliant minds are then stuck at home and being
That is
unproductive.
sad. And after qualifying themselves, because some of them would even go beyond a basic degree, go to get a master's or a PhD, and then you're at home, which is like a sad situation. So it is all because once you have your children, the responsibility of bringing up your children becomes like a huge thing holding you. Now, it shouldn't be the case. We will talk, I guess you will ask me later what is it that we can do, we'll talk about it then. But we need to find out ways of, I mean, yes, our responsibilities are stuff that we cannot give up on, but whilst doing that, how do we make sure that whatever we owe, because at the end of the day, we all got educated from a free education system in Sri Lanka. So there is something that we have to give back.
For sure.
And we need to work towards that. So encouraging people to continue working as much as possible. And if you're not working in the corporate world, why not? You can start your own business. So getting that right skill set to do that is a must. That's where we need to go.
Do you see enough being done in terms of the government policies to encourage more women to become entrepreneurs? If not, what can they do? Is it about providing better loan facilities? Because we are aware, especially in the rural areas, sometimes these women, they want to start a business, but it's difficult to go to a conventional bank and get a loan without showing assets, and then they have to rely on so many informal sources for funding, which results in other threats and various other problems for them. I mean, I'm quite sure you, myself, and the whole country knows what kind of problems women face when they try to rely on these informal borrowing sectors. Tusitha, from your perspective, is the government doing enough to empower them, and if not, what should they be doing?
Okay, so I think before we go there, let's just look at what is the currently, I mean, this country doesn't have a proper census of entrepreneurs available. Now, when I talk about an entrepreneur, somebody who is doing a small business from home, like say you make 10 lunch packets and sell, you're also an entrepreneur.
For sure, absolutely.
Yeah? But you're not counted. So this, we have, in nowhere do we have a real count of entrepreneurs. So this 36% that we talk about could be very different if we can get a real count of how many are there and what their contribution to the economies. So that's one step definitely, and a government has to do that because it's a census and statistic job that has to.
We have a bureau for that. They
yes,
should be doing
they should do that. They do collect information, but I don't think it is managed holistic enough or analyzed in a proper way to get what is needed. Then the second thing is, with entrepreneurs, the biggest problem is you have an idea, you just get on with it, but you don't get yourself ready to do a business. So when we deal with entrepreneurs, the biggest problem we see, two things. One is they have no marketing knowledge whatsoever. They have a product and they want that product to go out into the market. They don't know how, they don't know what the need state is. So you don't have that whole consumer-centric approach to a business. Then the second biggest thing, what you said is, right? Access to finance. They cannot go to a legal entity, to a bank or a finance institution, and without collateral, without having influence, without knowing somebody, get decent support. So if these can be arranged, if we can support them, that what the chamber does is actually we are upskilling people with capacity building programs. We teach them what marketing is. We teach them what a supply chain is. However small your business is, you need to align your supply chain. So we teach them those skills. The taxing and finance. Most of these businesses don't even keep records of their revenue. It's not even written down. So everything that you get, you think is your money, and you will probably use it, you don't know where, and then you get stuck. So their only alternative is, as you said, go to these lenders, and they lend at ridiculous rates, and that is a cycle you're never going to come out of. So if we can get the government to actually look at these problems and have a structure, they don't have to do it. I mean, chambers like ours can do this work, but we need support. We need support and a proper way of communicating this.
Despite the challenges of the pandemic, do you still see that these women entrepreneurs, especially in rural areas, I believe you interact with women entrepreneurs across the country, do you see, Tusitha, that these women entrepreneurs are still resilient and they are still adamant to make their ventures a success, or has the pandemic kind of dimmed their confidence and the courage?
It has affected them somewhat, but they are not giving up. I think that is what a woman is, because you would try to. I guess some of the time it is also because of the necessity. I mean, you probably become the main breadwinner for the family, so you can't really give up, and then you need to continue. But what we really need to do is get them skilled for their job, irrespective of what size the business is. Understand the fundamentals of doing a business. If you need finance, how do you manage your finance? How you manage your tax? How do you get insurance into your business so that in an eventuality you don't you have some backup?
Basic business education.
Basic business. Now we do that quite extensively and very in a focused manner regularly to get people to get this knowledge. And we have seen, especially during during COVID also we ran virtual workshops, and we've seen some who have actually benefited from that, and their businesses are doing great. Now I do the marketing part in those workshops. So when I meet these entrepreneurs outside and I see that they have leveraged the knowledge that they acquired, and they are speaking now confidently, talking about their consumers. They're talking about, okay, what are the next levels of needs that we are going to address. I mean, it's an amazing.
So when you show them the right direction, they are willing to think in terms of business growth. Is that the case?
Women have the capacity to do that. All they need is that push.
And that guidance.
The guidance for somebody, and also to know that if I need something, there is somebody there.
There's
so
a
that is the
for me to rely on.
Chamber is that.
Understood. What exactly can networking bring to the table for women-owned enterprises? And the current economic crisis of Sri Lanka, how is it affecting these women-owned enterprises, especially in a small scale? Let's talk about that after the break. This is Bisnomics. Welcome back to Bisnomics, your weekend's most profitable 60 minutes. We are in conversation with Tusitha Kumarakulasingam on the important topic of empowering women for enhanced economic contribution. Tusitha, let's talk about networking, because nowadays you say that more than your net, or rather they say that your net worth is actually your network. Whom you know and who knows you matters more today than ever so before, because we are now having passed the era of physical capital, intellectual capital. Today we are in the era of social capital. Our networks are very important, and to a certain distance or to a certain effect, people get things done based on the contacts. Yeah. So obviously networking is very important. In your perspective, how important is networking for a women entrepreneur, especially with like-minded, similar other women entrepreneurs?
I think it is important for anyone, whether it's a male or a female, because your network does come into to become a great support system. Who you know matter. So a network has to be developed over a period of time. You can't like come out tomorrow and say, okay, I'm going to kind of get to know all these people. It doesn't work that way. It is what you've done, how you've behaved, how you've connected with people over a period of time that your network will start believing in you, and your credibility builds on that. So a network, no questions, it is important, and it will add value to you, because when you come to a crossroad, if you know the right people, if you know the right organizations, you can always reach out for support. So for a woman entrepreneur, especially the startups, it is critical.
For sure. So that's why when you have that network, when you build that network, you are able to get the right advice from the right people. You learn, you hear similar success stories, isn't it? And that always is helpful.
So I think adding on, actually, now what happens is somebody will ask the question, okay, I'm just a startup, how would I have a network? I'm just out of school, how would I have? It doesn't really matter. That's when you join an organization like the Women's Chamber, because you already have the network in place. We have members from different strata of businesses, and you can connect with them and be a part of all the programs that we conduct to learn. So that is going to give you a fair amount of grounding that can take you to the next level.
Let's talk about the triple crisis, which is technically crippling our economy right now. The dollar crisis, fuel shortage, energy issues in energy supply to businesses, because not all businesses, especially not all small businesses, can afford generators. And even if you get generators, you still need fuel to run it.
Yep.
So in terms of raw material issues, the dollar crisis, energy crisis, and the fuel issues, what are the unseen impact of these developments on women-owned enterprises, especially from your experience as a board member of WCIC? When you talk with the women-owned business community, Tusitha, what are the challenges that they are coming across?
So again, I don't think there are challenges for women and challenges for
Correct.
men. It is the same thing. We are all in a very difficult situation right now. I think the only way to look at this is there is always a silver lining in a dark
Correct.
cloud.
Dawn will come.
Dawn has to come, because we just cannot go on. Right now, every business is struggling. I mean, it doesn't really matter whether you are actually dealing with foreign exchange, but the raw material that you even buy from the open market could be imported, and every day it is going up in price. For a small business, the most important thing is to make sure that you can keep your people, pay their salaries and
Correct.
Basics.
Have the working capital
working
to
capital,
survive.
and keep your business afloat during this time, because we are not going to be talking about massive growth and all that, except for few sectors maybe. But this issue, I think, has escalated beyond points that you can't even imagine.
Correct.
Simply because it has been mismanaged.
Absolutely.
I think it could have been curtailed. There could have been sensible decisions that could have been taken.
Listen to the right people with the right direction.
And definitely get advice from people who can advise, not from people who don't have the capacity to do that. But this country currently, we don't see that happening. And it is sad, because it's not them who's affected. It is all the others.
Correct.
Who are struggling to keep a small business going, or even small or big, it doesn't matter. A business going, to make sure that your business is okay, and also your employees stay afloat.
Tusitha, how can women business owners or women entrepreneurs connect with the WCIC? Can they attend your meetings? How can they interact with you? I think this is the forum and platform for you to share your thoughts on.
Yes. I mean, they can become members. It is available. Membership is available. There are different segments, irrespective of the size of your business. Even a startup can become a member. And from thereafter, you can get involved in anything that we provide. Majority of our efforts, like the capacity building programs and all that, we hardly charge anything. Most of them are free, because we collaborate with various organizations who have similar interest, and then we make sure that the costs are borne by them. We can align it. They have to be a part of this. And it doesn't, I mean, it is not a Colombo-centric organization.
Correct.
It is this is the national chamber. So anyone from anywhere in the country should be a part of it, and they can have access. I mean, now with digital access, it doesn't matter where you are, you can always connect.
Tusitha, now your area of expertise is marketing, and what would your advice be for any women entrepreneur in terms of preparing their pitch, how you approach an investor? I know this is golden advice coming from you because you are an expert in marketing, but the nitty-gritty of getting your pitch right, what would your advice? What are the key areas to address? Because people still struggle with this. When you ask, it's surprising to see when you ask people, so tell me about you or tell me about your business, how they struggle. It's still a big shock to me, but people are struggling. Even some of the professionals in leading organizations struggle to explain that. What is your advice, getting the perfect pitch?
So basically, I think the fundamental truth remains the same. If you can understand what you're selling and for whom, your business builds around that. You need to understand who your consumer is. You need to understand what is it that you're going to take to that consumer and for what. Your business builds around that. So marketing is actually the basic form for you to, basic point to start, and make sure you align the other services. Your sales will come from one side, your production part will have to be connected, then your supply chain has to be connected, your finance has to be connected, human resources. So marketing is the pivotal role. For me, I guess naturally a marketer would say that, start with your marketing plan. Figure out what you're selling and for whom is it going, and then build the business around it. You have to know what you're doing. You can't have a business where you can't explain to somebody what you're doing. Then there is something wrong, and that should give you a signal to say, okay, I need to get my act ready.
Now, we also see a lot of business leaders spending a lot of time building their brand online, which also begs the question, are they neglecting their business and too busy building their brand? Because at the end of the day, if you don't have substance, your brand will naturally die off. Your advice on balancing between brand building and business building?
Okay, I would also, you're talking about personal brand building, is it?
Absolutely.
Okay, it is important because your personal credibility is the one that gives you weight.
Especially when you are a startup.
Yes.
You are your business, you are
Exactly.
your brand.
Yes, so you need to have a certain amount of it. But at the end of the day, you need to get whatever you're marketing, that brand has to be focused. Striking the right balance is actually up to you. If you allow one to overtake the other, in certain areas it might help, where like you need personalities to drive or market a business, it might help, but it won't work with everything.
Understood.
So you need to understand, you basically need to educate yourself on how important each of those elements are.
On a final note, Tusitha, your advice to any young women entrepreneurs who are starting out or about to take the leap, what is your advice to them, and what challenges to expect and how to overcome? Your advice to them, heart to heart.
Challenges are going to be many, and you cannot expect challenges to happen because anything can be a challenge. But at the same time, anything can be an opportunity as well. So be very open, be very courageous, be committed, and develop yourself. Actually, I didn't touch on something. I have actually written a small book.
For sure, please share.
Yeah, it is called Because I Said So. I actually did it I have 2 kids of my own, and I have 2 other kids that they are like my own. I did it for them. It has all the advice a child needs to get there, not to go off rail. And it has, I didn't do it as a commercial exercise. I got it done for the children, but then started kind of selling it because there was quite a bit of positive reviews for it. But I think it is, some of those grounding has to happen at home. It is the responsibility of the mother and the father to ground the children at an early age, to instill the values that are required. And then those children will never fail when they go out into the world, because they know what holds them. They know how they are rooted.
Very inspiring, very deep thoughts there from you, Tusitha. Thank you so much for joining us today, spending your valuable time and sharing the beautiful thoughts. And what I really like is your way of thinking, how you look at even challenges with a positive twist. And we indeed here in Bisnomics and the team at TV1, we wish you all the very best for all your future endeavors, as well as all the good work of WCIC, the Women's Chamber of Industry and Commerce. May you all have an eventful year and a successful and a productive year this year as well as into the future as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the best.
Thank you so much for inviting us, and it was a pleasure being here. Really nice spending this time discussing with you.
No matter what industry you are involved in, there's always opportunities for women to play a more productive role. Find out how in your business, in your industry, you could create those opportunities for the women. And for all the women out there, the young budding entrepreneurs who are also female leaders in the world of business and in the society, make sure that you look at the challenges with a positive twist. Face them with a smile, because at the end of the day, challenges are what defines you, and how you overcome them becomes your brand and makes you even more successful in the future. I'm Tharandu Amarasekara, and no matter what business you may be in, may the coming week be one that you face some good challenges that empowers you to be better leaders. I'll see you with the next episode. This is Bisnomics.